What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 37 of me documenting my journey as a startup founder, building my own AI search platform, or these days I'm calling it an AI intelligence platform. But let's just call it an AI search platform. I'm building it by myself. I don't have any funding. I quit my job at Google Plex headquarters a couple of years back. I was part of the Google Search org and I quit. Uh, Wanting to do something of my own, thought the timing was right. I was frustrated and had the fire. Something I always wanted to work on was to build my own little search platform, an engine, an app that incorporates some of my ideas that I've collected over the years and just using, search and different AI apps. And I've spent many years at ask.com, which is also a search engine, 7 years, I think. I spent a year at Google, other tech companies, Amazon, etc. And I've been a past founder as well, but not with a lot of success, limited success. This time I'm going big. And I do these kind of sessions to share how I'm building my search platform. Today, we're going to go slightly more technical, and I'm going to talk about LLM as a judge and what is it and why I'm building it and how I'm incorporating it in this sort of little search platform, right? And when a query comes, you do your AI magic and then produce a response. That's essentially the product. And why do I need this? And so I want to talk about it. Um, I am sharing in my screen some notes that should help. Oops, that should help. And let's just get going. Generally, I give more of an introduction, but in this case, I think it's fairly obvious. The idea is that LLMs produce a response. Why don't you use another LLM to review the response, how good it was? A lot of benefits because um, um, since you are using an AI, an LLM call to review another LLM call, you can be fairly sort of generic or specific about the instructions. For example, you want to review the quality, you want to review uh, its accuracy by grounding it in real data. You want to review the tone, you want to review depth, you want to review its complexity. There's a lot of things when you're dealing with lots and lots of data and you're producing, collecting all the data from the web, which is what a search engine does. It kind of looks at everything that's available, including APIs behind walled gardens, and puts it together in a search response. And how you do it is important. What data you select is important. And so that's why LLM as a judge can become very important, very useful, I should say, component. Another sort of reason is that as these LLMs get smarter, you automatically benefit from your platform becoming better, because in this case the judging will happen better and the follow-up task can be more intelligent. You can also ask, in this case, a LLM judge to recommend what you should do next. In you can give it a series of set of actions that it should pick from. And so this way, if you build a pipeline, you can imagine from start to finish, you can build a pipeline that's still kind of static. You have to go from step one to step two to step three, but the gating mechanism between two steps can be LLM driven, and so the quality control becomes um, not only automatic uh, in the sense that you can set the configuration, the bar, how you transition from one step to the other step, but it's also very flexible, and also over time it just gets better and better and better. And so you're one step closer to having a fully automated AI sort of architecture. It's still not completely model driven because you have static steps, but what I'm doing in my case is I'm collecting training data as these steps are followed, um, with the hopes that down the road um, I can train a model, or use a composition of models. Anyway, that's a topic for a future session. But that's how LLM as a judge can be really important. And if you don't want to use it as a gating mechanism, actually, let me turn on my mic. I forgot to turn on my mic, and so it's using my MacBook's mic. Let's see if this picked it up, because this mic's much better. Hello. Not picking it up. Is it on? Oh, it is on. You know what? I think I may have to restart the session. So never mind for now. I'll have to apologize, guys, for maybe I can change it to my iPhone. Let's see if that works. Okay, testing, testing. Sorry, this may be better than uh, my MacBook microphone, but in the future I'll make sure I'm using my actual. I have a DJI microphone here, right here. There you go. I stuck it in, but I never turned it on. Sorry about that. But if you don't use as a gating mechanism, you can also use LLM as a judge, or by the way, people call it LLM critic or LLM as a critic as well. You can use this for your final response evaluator. So you produce an AI response. You don't want to show it to the user. Maybe it has problems, maybe it has issues. You can use this AI LLM as a judge or AI critic. They all mean the same thing. Uh, to review before you show to the user. Now, let's talk about some downsides. The obvious downside is cost. You're introducing an extra cost because you're making an extra LLM call. Now, there are some uh, ideas I have, and other people also have discussed this. So these are not unique ideas that I only have, but both cost and actually the second second downside is latency. They can be somewhat mitigated by hosting a local model, and so it's cheaper. You can run an open source model because you don't need a very top of the line or state of the art model for LLM. You're just reviewing and critiquing. Even open source model like the latest GLM 5.1 from China, I think Moonshine Labs. I forget the company's name, but GLM 5.1 supposedly very good. I've been using 5.0 in various use cases, but I've not tried 5.1, but it's supposedly even better. 5.0 is already better. So you can use those kind of open source LLMs, depending on the licensing criteria uh, that works for you. And because it's a local call, it's faster. And then also you can reduce the thinking or turn thinking off, and that makes it even faster. It still introduces cost and latency, but somewhat diminished. In my case, I went full on sort of quality first approach. I want to make sure it's trusted, and so there's a lot of citation verification I do to make sure I don't make things up, kind of like the Google fiasco we've seen in the past. And Perplexity also has had issues. So I wanted to really focus on it. And so the responses for my product when it comes out, hopefully in April, end of April, you'll have a chance to see. Hopefully they're much better, but you'll see they're slightly slower. Anywho, so let's talk about how it works. So again, LLM is a judge. You can place it wherever in your system, use it wherever in your system, but you need it. There are a bunch of open source libraries, GitHub libraries you can use. I don't recommend them. They're pretty heavy. They do lots of things. If you're like me, you just want it as a gating mechanism. You already have the ability to make LLM calls. Why do you need a library? But they're there. Just I wanted to mention them. Now, I've kind of tried to parameterize it and make it like a Python module, but you can obviously in any language, you can do the same. So the idea here, what I mentioned is parameterized. So you can set different parameters to the LLM as a judge and the LLM as, or the judge LLM, let's just call it judge, or let's just call it AI critic. AI critic will just respond back, honor the parameters. And then one of the parameters is the contract. And this is sort of pretty cool. I like this idea. Um, I don't want to say I came up with this, but I had some ideas to formalize the contract, and then Claude helped me out come up with this concept of verification contract, and I liked it, and I'm like, let's go with it. So what's the contract? So in my case, I have an instruction. It's just English. What do you want to verify? And then schema for the data that how you want to respond back. So I want JSON back so that it's easy to inspect. So for example, it's good or bad. I don't want string search or regex search. If you get JSON back, it's so much easier. So what's the schema of that JSON? So I mentioned that so that the AI critic can follow it. In my case, right now, I'm using Gemini 2.5 and using their cheapest model, 2.5 Flash Lite. It's like the cheapest. Most, I mean, they have a 2.0 model that's even cheaper, but the 2.5 flashlight is good enough. And it's pretty fast. The advantage of using very small models is not only they're cheaper, they're faster. Um, so yeah, the schema and then, some kind of criteria for what it means to pass and some criteria for what it means to fail. And the module is kind of very generic. In fact, I can open source the module. Uh, I don't know if I'm a one-person company, so I don't know if I have the capacity to do so, but it's absolutely in a position to open source. It's very trivial. You can just build it. Perfectly honest, you don't need a open source library for it, but it's that sort of generic. It's built completely parameterized, supporting this verification contract. And here it goes how it works. You have some contact you want to check. It could be any text. By the way, in that text, you could have diagrams. In that text, you can have ASCII art or some other sort of mermaid diagrams. You can have formulas. You can have markdown, anything. You can have any language content as well, because these are LLMs and they can understand and interpret all of them. And that's kind of the secret. And then passing the contract. So, hey, I have this body of text. Like, for example, I got this data from YouTube API, right? These sort of videos. And I um, want to sort of put a summarize all the sort of videos, all the videos into a summary so that I can pass it along to the next stage because there's too much content. And I don't want to send everything to the next step. I can summarize that content, but then I can run it through a gate like this. I can send it to AI Critic and like, did I do a good job summarization, the summary, and maybe I can also include the original sources in the context. Gemini supports not $1 million, 1 million token context. So you can technically pass a lot. And then the contract, which is what we talked about, the instruction schema, pass and fail criteria, and off it goes. And that's just one example, one instance of how I would use it. And there are so many places where I want this kind of ability. And I definitely want to use this at the very end once the final response is constructed to see is it good enough or not. For maybe I can say this response, is it good enough for this query? And this is sort of the metrics or this the quality bar I have set for myself. And here are some examples of bad responses or example of good responses, whatever. There's so many different ways. And I can use this. And if it's not good enough, I can try the whole thing again, the query processing, maybe expand the query, include more sources or include different sources, which also can be decided by an AI. So you can see how I'm thinking and building this out. The only caveat is, all these AI LLM calls add up cost and latency. But like I discussed earlier, that's just going to be a fact of life for most applications. And so hosting open source models locally, allocate some GPU cluster should be a good approach. I don't do that because I'm a one-person company, so I just use Google Cloud's Vertex AI. But down the road, I'm pretty sure I'd have to migrate because the costs add up. And also because it's in your network, the latency is faster to make these LLM calls, and you have a lot more control. You can even fine tune actually. So you can fine tune AI, this AI critic LLM with good and bad examples, and then use that fine tuned model as well. So that's a benefit you get if you host yourself. But if I use Vertex AI right now, I can't. Actually, I can fine tune a model and host it on Vertex AI, which is a nice thing. And there are many other platforms also, obviously. But yeah, that's it for today. That's LLM as a judge. I have some other things I wanted to call out. Reasoning, maybe a future discussion, I'll talk about reasoning, but you can use reasoning to your advantage because reasoning also has some interesting sort of You can review the reasoning to kind of to your benefit. Something reasoning is something how I use reasoning and how reasoning can be used. Um, I want to talk about maybe in a future dedicated video on reasoning. But yeah, that's something here. And then here's an example. Um, what how to use it. So like I use it for depth. Like how, is the answer or response kind of does it have the depth that deserves for the query? And so here's kind of an example. Is the full analysis worth reading? I have a concept of full analysis response and a summary response. It's like a TLDR response. And so one way I can use this is if the TLDR is good enough and the full analysis doesn't have a lot of things, I'll collapse it, else I'll expand it. So it's a very simple use case, and it is something I'm actually trying and exploring and experimenting. And you can do some other things like I have here. Um, a citation verifier. So that's another sort of, actually, that's a much better use case. You've got these citations. Are the sources actually saying what we claim? This is something I want to implement because Perplexity, Google, there have been a lot of reports on Reddit where they claim to be they claim that a certain piece of text has a citation annotation, but when people actually inspect it, it's actually not true. It's the LLM is made up. And so I'm actually using this for citation verifier so that um, I can say, is this citation satisfying? Now, again, you would keep in account cost and latency. So that's it for today. LLM as a judge, really nice concept, really simple concept, and hopefully I was able to also share how you can use this sort of stringing together or and orchestrating these LLM calls to build a truly, truly sort of AI native platform, backend, whatever. It could be a game, it could be an app, it could be an enterprise application, what have you. And that's how I would recommend if you are trying building something from scratch, you build because as these LLMs get better, your application automatically gets better. So that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, hasta la vista. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.